Let me tell y'all something. Let me tell y'all something. I want to champion black men. I do. I want to champion black men as hard as I can. But it is very difficult when y'all bring y'all black asses on TV and do this ignorant shit that y'all be doing. And when the most illogical person becomes logical on a show that he has been on since season one, doing the most irreputable shit I've ever seen in a human being, actually be the one that makes some sense in the situation, we got a problem. Sorry, y'all. I had to get that off my chest.
Tell the truth and shame the devil.
I had to get that off my chest. I am so sorry. Welcome to Watch Your Mouth Reviews. This is your boy James. I am here to give my honest review while trying to watch my mouth. And obviously, as y'all heard in my opening, I didn't even do it. But joining me as always is my co-host, Mrs. Best. Y'all say what's up to her.
Hi.
Yes, she is here. Like, comment, and subscribe to both channels. Any recaps or reviews that I do not do on my channel personally, we do on her channel. So we have a lot of videos on her channel with reality TV shows that we cover. If you're here today, this one is Love and Marriage Huntsville, season 8, episode 11. And this episode, y'all, this is why I didn't want to do this show. This is why I did not want to do this show. Because I am in such disbelief of what I just saw. So we open it up where we left off last week because you know how Love and Marriage Huntsville does. They love to leave us on a to be continued. We on a big ass cliffhanger for nothing. But we are at the Fletcher's residence. And Nell is still apprehensive and she is staying with that if her it's because of her own money situation. That's why she is so stressed and just, crazy. She want to get out of debt. And she feel like she can't do it because one of her kids has her hand out for something. Hi, Zeta. Thank you for being here. Yes, Mrs. Best is back from
Thank
vacation.
you so much. You're so sweet. Just
We
the
love we love you, Zeta. Thank you for being here. I hope you staying for a while because we need you to help us make some sense of what we just saw in this episode. But we love you nonetheless, Zeta. Thank you for being here. But let's get back to it. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, Nell got on my goddamn nerves. So I'm sorry, this ain't gonna be in favor of Nell this week. It's not. It really is not. I usually like her for the most part, but this week I saw something in her that made me look at her different. But Fletcher proposes that Dr. Francis talks to them, and Nell's like, "Oh, I don't need no therapy. Y'all could talk to Dr. Francis. I don't need it." And her son, the youngest son, was like, "No, you need to be there too. I don't care if I have to come and get you. You need to be there as well." And the other kids are trying to get her to understand that maybe you can get a benefit out of it versus you being so defensive towards it. But that's how black people are, especially black people from her generation. They're not open to therapy. They're not open for someone to tell them about their life, even though that's not what therapy does. Therapy is designed to interrupt the pattern that has you stuck. I don't know how many times I have to say that on this channel. Nell, watch my channel, please. Therapy is designed to interrupt the pattern that causes you to be stuck and in your own way. They teach you things that designedly places you in a different mind space. So that way, whatever funk or whatever stuck that you're in, you can get unstuck if you tell the honest truth of where you are. And why therapy doesn't work for some people is because y'all don't tell the truth about where you are and the headspace you're in. Mrs. Best, would you agree with that?
Yes, I do therapy with clients every day. I work in mental health. And yeah, he's right. I mean, I don't have anything else to add. It's really about what the person, you
We
know.
know Zeta. We just love including you in everything. You are other hosts, with the exception of the other ones who aren't here. They usually are my co-hosts up in there. We talking about Naya. I haven't seen her in a minute. Shout out to my girl Naya Green. I have not seen her in a
Oh,
minute. So,
speaking
mhm.
of Married to Medicine, I can't wait. I just want to put that out there. I cannot wait for Married to Medicine.
Oh,
I
it's
love
gonna go
it.
down on my channel because yes, we got to talk about Quad. We got to talk about all these people. So yes, it's definitely going down. Married to Medicine comes back. But moving on from there, we get to see what Marceau, and we have the introduction into Trisha's husband, Marquez. Now he comes in this scene as Marceau's friend, which we know this is Trisha's husband. I don't know why Carlos playing with our minds. We know who the
Because he don't know how to edit. He don't know how to just produce and let the directors and the editors do their part. He don't know what he doing, but he's learning. He's better at the podcasting, I think, than doing shows.
I agree because I enjoy his podcast. Actually, I actually listen to a couple of them. I think he does excellent. The celebrity interviews, the reality TV interviews, he does amazing at that. He needs to keep that. This is beyond his, but I get it. Sometimes you have to expand the vision in order to come into your purpose. I totally get that. So I'm not going to down Carlos for that. I want him to come into his purpose, but this, you need to get younger producers, people who actually know. These, I can tell you have old school people. But we meet Marquez, which is Trisha's husband. And he actually reached out to Marceau because apparently him and Ken, which is Trisha's new man, had got into it at an event at Black not that long ago. So he wanted to reach out to show his apology. Now, when he said that, I said, oh no, because Mrs. Best had reached out to me because I just watched the episode today. Mrs. Best reached out to me. She said, "Oh, James, you're not gonna like the husband." And I said, "God damn it. No, no. I thought this was going to make some sense here. I thought this was going to make some sense. No, 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 no." So sure enough, when he sat his ass down, they said that I said, "Oh shit, here we go." I said, here we go. So the conversation comes up. Marcel's trying to put two and two together because apparently he didn't know that Marquez and Trisha are married. And because he has met Ken and he knows Trisha because they used to work together at Monaco, which is, I have to Google what that is. I heard it's a movie theater, but it sounds like, hi, Shayna. It sounds like it's something more than a movie theater. I'm hearing parties, I'm hearing all kind of stuff. So I'm going to Google that when, we get done with this to see what it is. But he begins talking with him and he was like, well, what happened between you and Trisha? So this man fits his mouth to say that Trisha was losing people left and right. She had lost her parents within 6 months of each other and she was losing her sister. So because he had never lost anybody, he didn't know how to have empathy with her. And I was like, oh my God. And then he said that, so once we separated, he lived around the corner. And then when she got with Ken, he couldn't take it. So he decides to move to Atlanta. And when he moved to Atlanta, his kids started to feel the abandonment. And when the kids felt the abandonment, they started expressing that to him. His daughter was coming up saying that, she doesn't love him and that, he doesn't feel like a father to her. And he got hurt by that. And he said, and I know that's Ken. And I said, oh my God, this conversation. And I have to give it to Marcel. I don't give Marcel much because he's still full of shit to me. But when Marcel was like, how the hell do you leave your household? Like with your children, like that's what you get. And when Marcel was trying to reason with him to say, hey, look, it's not the man, it's you. This fool is still trying to make excuses, about Ken and how they met and how, he was on Instagram and, and she was liking his post and putting chocolate. And I'm just like, y'all, the more this man spoke in this conversation, the more irritated I became. So I'm going to let ladies go first because I'm going to stop it because I can't do any more of this shit. I have one more segment with him and Trisha. So
Your mouth is filthy today. My goodness.
because I don't like when black men do this. I don't. Because honestly, I thought we got past all of this, but clearly, no, we have not. So, Mrs. Best, how did you feel about this conversation? What do you think of Marquez so far?
It's a shame because he's kind of handsome, but he's just he had an excuse for everything. And people who have an excuse for everything, they've been making excuses probably their whole life. And he gave that energy. I won't say too much because we get more when he actually talks with Trish, but Shout out to Marsa. I can't believe I gotta say that. Shout out
Right? Like it
to
hurts your mouth, so you gotta
and
do
yeah, I'm
it.
like, wait a second, I don't like these people, but Marcel, regardless of how I feel about him and his wife, they are good parents. I will give them that, and I do think that he takes fatherhood seriously as well as his brother. But I also think this is what the Black community needs more of, holding each other accountable, especially amongst men. So I respected him for doing that. At the end of the day, there is no excuse, in my opinion, for you to not be around your children. Okay, if you move to Atlanta, then you be on FaceTime with your kids every day, on the hour, all day. Be coming back. It ain't nothing but a drive. Listen, if we in California could drive 12 hours to Vegas, then you could drive them 12 hours to Huntsville, which is probably less than that, to
It's
see your
not
kids on your off days.
Huntsville to Atlanta is 3.5 hours.
Oh, so there ain't no excuse. I know men in California that will drive to Arizona to see their kids on the weekend, turnaround trips. So there's no excuse to not see your kids. It don't matter if it's divorce. My dad fought in court for us. When my parents split up, I was old enough to remember. So there's no excuse not to see your kids. This man gives me toxic in every way of the word. I don't think he ever thought that he and Trisha would break up because they had been together for so long. And then when it happened, he's like, what the heck? And now he's blaming Ken, it seems, for all his problems. But we know it's not to be true. So I was just happy that Marcel kind of kept him in check. But I have no faith for him because even after being checked and held accountable, he still found a way to, make an excuse. So
He
I
still
have no
tried to
hope
find a
for
way to
this.
make it Trish and Ken's fault for why you were absent.
But seeing him makes me wonder, like, girl, I'd be running to the courthouse for pens, papers. Why?
Right.
It's
If this was any inclination of what this marriage was like, then I don't understand why you just didn't file. And this is what I'm saying about Trisha. I'm not going to discredit that she has some part in this. I'm not going to discredit because there's some reason why you don't want to let this man go either. We'll get to it when we get there. But I'm just gonna say it like this: there's a reason why she's not let this man go completely either, and I am 100% guaranteed that it's probably something that is addicting to him because he is a handsome guy. I'm not going to front on y'all. He is. He's you know very well put together as far as aesthetic. But when it comes to personality, when it comes to his ways, he lacks 100%. Anytime you want to blame a grown man for why your children have taken a step back from you is crazy to me when you the one that left the household. I don't understand that. I don't understand how because it's not just him that does this, y'all. This is a lot of men who act like this that when the woman moves on and gets her someone else and then your kids fall back from you because you're not even there anymore, you then want to blame all that on him based on what you think may have happened. Now how he said him Ken and Trish got together is somewhat believable. I'm sorry y'all, based on how she's moved on this TV show, I somewhat do believe it. I do believe that there was a conversation that had happened before she left that household. Now it could have been innocent.
Zeta made a good point in the comments about her. She don't really have nobody to date since she been with this man since high school. She don't know no better. So I do kind of agree with that. But then at the same time, this guy, I don't really have anything good to say
I
about
don't
him.
either, and I want to
Oh,
because
it's
how Trisha's been moving
terrible.
this entire season, I'm just like, okay. When he come on the show, and I kept saying that y'all go back and watch my other reviews. I'm like, when this man come on the show, it's finna make sense. It's finna
He
make
do
sense.
look like, though, I will say something positive. He's attractive, and he looked like if you lay down and spread it wide, he gonna go to work overtime. That's what it looked like. I'm gonna tell y'all the truth. It's always the worst dudes who put it down in the bedroom. I'm trying to tell you
So, do you
something.
think that's why Trisha hasn't proceeded with filing divorce
I
on
think
her
it's a
part?
piece of that. I also feel like I've been with my husband since I was 16, and we've gone through good things, bad things. I think when you're with somebody for that long, especially from high school, it's not just being together, you grow together. And sometimes you can keep each other from growing. So I feel like a piece of that may have impacted him very heavily. But then I also feel like with Trisha, there's still like some type of, no, James said he wasn't all of that. I felt the man was attractive. Hell. My husband was like, "What you talking about on James's live?" Because he'd be watching your lives. I said, "Oh Lord, the man was fine. Hey, I can't
Okay, here's the thing, Shayna, because Mrs. Best said her part. I didn't. I say he was all right, and I
you
still
so
think that
do.
I still think that way as well. I'm not, saying I'm not saying he's ugly. I just say he's handsome. I can understand, but for me, it takes much more than that. It take way much more than that because honestly, I need intelligence, I need self-awareness, I need self-assurance. I need a lot of different things now. I've come from my last relationship, I've come to understand that when you're not self-aware, which this man clearly is not, that actually runs off the attractive meter. I begin looking at that more. So it's a work in progress, Shayna. It really is. But you know, to Zeta's point, Mrs. Best's point, I get her hesitation. However, it makes me wonder now how much you're into Ken. And if you just want someone there just to have him there versus actually being in love with him. Because to me, it started, and I'm just saying, just from my personal observation of them, it just seems like you want a man to always be there versus actually being in love because you understand what it's like to have a man who's absent and still in the house and to have a man is there and is still nourishing you. So I don't know. It's something about Trisha too. I'm telling you, I'm not taking my off Trisha, but seeing this husband, I understand now. I understand. He's not Mr. from The Color Purple. He Andre from down on 75th over there. That's what it is.
I cannot today.
I'm just saying that ain't funny. This is business. Nah, I'm just saying they got that all wrong. I was like, nah. We all know somebody named Andre from 75th over there who ain't shit and got a whole slew of baby mamas hell from not probably far from each other, and that's exactly what this is giving. That's exactly what this is giving. Yeah, he's handsome, but not definitely on my type. I was expecting something else. His personality is trash. I need to finish on. Yes, you
Mhm.
do, Shayna, because it get worse. Yes, you do. I've been thinking the same thing, James. Kim wasn't sure to cry on. He provided her emotional support her husband didn't give her, and I don't know if that's the proper word, but maybe it's trauma bond. It is trauma bond.
You are
It is
correct.
absolutely trauma
Yeah,
bond.
that's
It is that
exactly
because
what it is.
he also had Ken also had a situation as well. But because we don't know Ken's situation with the young lady with him raising the daughter that's not his, we don't know nothing about it. So we can't really judge it. But we have all Trisha business out here and Trisha and Marquez's business. And now we're kind of pulling back the layers. Okay, he did not provide her emotional support when both her parents died and then her sister died at that, and we'll get to it. Let's not jump too far ahead. So that was pretty much it with this thing. That's all I'm gonna talk about with this thing with Marquez and Marceau because that shit was irritating the hell out of me. How the one who's really illogical in the situation actually became logical and made the most sense anybody's has this entire season. That is crazy. Shout out to you, Marceau. I'm not gonna give you too much once again because I know how you roll, but that was good. That you did a wonderful job bringing that man back down to reality. Did he listen? I don't know. We will see later on. But y'all, moving on from there, Nell go over Melody house, and as I said, Nell got on my goddamn nerves this entire episode because everyone is telling her that therapy is not bad and maybe she'll get a lot out of it, and she's still staying on this financial thing. So she goes over to Mel's house and she's telling her, that no one had her back and everyone is thinking that she needs the therapy. And Mel's kind of taking her from the standpoint, she goes, well, maybe you'll get something out of it. Like your emotions, like maybe they'll teach you how to compartmentalize that better versus you always just exploding when you hear something you don't want to hear. And I said, thank you. Because that's exactly what this is. Y'all, Nell's problem isn't the financial thing as much as I think that's only a small part of it. Nell's problem is that she has always throwing money at her kids when they beg and call because that's what she raised them to do. She probably came from what a lot of black people come from is poverty. And when you come from poverty and then you come into money and everything, you begin giving your kids the aesthetic that you did not have to try to make sure they don't go into the same patterns that you did when you were in poverty. But what you do is you emotionally and fundamentally handicap them, and I don't know a better term. I know I'm probably going to get flagged for this, but I don't really care. Into making them feel like they can always come to you because you've always given it to them. But now, since times are harder, taxes are up, everything is expensive, we are in, almost in another recession. You're, you know, not necessarily bankrupt, but in that frame where you're like, damn, I can't give y'all nothing else. Why do you keep asking me? So when they come to you for emotional problems, like something they're just dealing with, they had a bad day at work, or someone that one got a flat tire, the other one having trouble with the kids and not knowing what to do, and they come into you, you're shutting them down automatically because you're thinking they need money. And you can't do that. You can't think that when your kids come to you and they begin placing your mindset, or their mindset to you, that you're thinking, oh, you just want some money. That's all that it is. And that's like, hell, come on. But when I get to this therapy session, which is the next scene, y'all, I'm gonna go even deeper than this because I saw something in a couple of them kids that made me feel like there's more to this story. Mrs. Best, how do you feel about the conversation between Nell and Mel before we move on to that therapy session?
I thought it was good. I think you're supposed to hold your friends accountable, but also provide your friends with positive, optimism, something to look forward to. She handled it correctly. I don't have too many complaints. I am sick of Nell though, and her
Hmm.
wigs.
Right. Speaking of Nell and her wig, it's the day of the therapy session. And Nell's in the kitchen just fussing, just fussing. She go, I can't believe you got me doing this, Fletcher. If you take your grown ass kids, do what they supposed to do, we will be going through this. As she's pouring Sprite in glasses and cups, and I'm just like, oh my God, Dr. Francis ain't even got here yet, and here you is in the kitchen just
Why
fussing.
did she call her husband by his last name?
I know a lot of women who do that, and
I,
it's weird to me because I say when I get married, don't call me Jackson because I'm going to ignore you. If you're gonna say my name, James Jackson, you can go ahead and say that, and I'll respond to that because that's proper. But if you call me by my last name, I will ignore you.
I do it to my husband sometimes, like if we joking, but I'm not. I'm just gonna keep it a buck. I get irritated when he calls me Amina. I'm like, what did I do? What did I do? What's wrong with you? Using my
Mhm.
government. I got time for that. Anyway,
Right.
that's all.
But look, I love my government name, so therefore, yes, you can always say it, and I will always respond. But when you say one or the other, it's a flip of the coin. But Dr. Francis gets there, and you can tell the kid, like, oh my God. Let me explain the scene, and then I'm gonna get into the kids in a minute. But the oldest son, like, you could tell this son, the oldest son, the one that's not by Chris, you could tell there's a lot that happened in his life. You could tell there's a lot there that Nell does not want him to go into, and that he's still holding on to. I don't know what it could be, but I was watching his face, I was watching his gestures, and I'm just like, oh yeah, that boy done been through something. And Nell, this ain't looking good. And I think you're doing this as a defense mechanism. Yeah, so that's crazy. No, but it be like that sometime. It do. It do, Zeta. But Dr. Francis then begins, and Nell just completely takes over, as she always does. She goes, "Look, the problem is that my kids just want money. That's all. Whatever it comes down to, it can be a Tuesday. They calling me. They need $20. This one need that. This one need that. And I just need myself. I don't need this therapy. I feel like they need it. If they give me my money and stop asking me for money, I'll be all right." And I'm looking at Neil like, why is it only about money with you? So Lance speaks up and he's like, look, I just want to talk to my mom. Anytime I call her, it's always she, doesn't listen. She always listens to respond to whatever it is I'm saying. And she goes, I'm telling you the damn truth. If you call me about something, if you would just listen the first time, your ass wouldn't be in the situation. And I'm just like, oh my God, damn. And he goes, oh, and then he actually rebuttals back. And he goes, look, and that's why I call dad, because when I call you, it's always something. At least he listens to me. And I think somewhere down the line, and I'm kind of disappointed in Dr. Francis that he didn't catch this. I really feel like, as it's what I said earlier, it's because they're always asking her for money. So when they have actual problems and want to go to her, she's not a safe space for them, because somewhere down the line, she's waiting for them to say the compensation or the financial whereabouts of wherever they at right now. She has put that in her mind so much that he can't even, if there is a real problem with Lucky, or not Lucky, well, call this man by his rapper name, by Lance, then she's going to immediately shut it down. So therefore, he can't get it out. And I felt like that was so unfair to him because you could tell he lives with a lot of trauma, but he can't get it out because she wants to correct it, or she wants to say, I told you so, or she wants to be the one to say, well, if you listen to me. And I'm going to keep it real with y'all. Parents, Black parents do this all the time. Nell should not be unfamiliar to any of us, right? Black people speak up.
You ain't never listen. I my mama still can't get through to that woman. My dad, I am a daddy's girl. I'm his firstborn. So he actually recently I had a conversation with him and he's like, I'm realized, the way that Black people do things sometimes with parenting, it can make you feel silenced. I realize I can learn something from you, even though you're my child. So there's stuff's been chill, but it took him so many years. My dad's almost 70 now. It took him so many years to get to that point. So it's something that happens, and Nell is definitely guilty of being a part of that stereotype, because stereotypes to some extent all come from some form of truth, whether people want to accept that or not. So, you
It
know,
is absolutely. And what we have to understand is that parents aren't perfect, no matter how
thank
much they
you.
portray. Yes, that's a very sweet comment. Thank you, Zeta. We appreciate that. We Parents aren't perfect. They're not. They make a lot of mistakes. And I think when we become adults, we understand that because we make our own mistakes. We end up doing our own thing. So when we are expressing to our parents our adult situations, we realistically just want them to listen and not respond at all and say, and even if they have to go religious with it, like just pray to God and it will work itself out. That's what we want to hear from our parents. We don't want to hear, I told you so. If you did what I told you, you wouldn't be in this situation. If you would just listen, you wouldn't do it. It's like what worked for you may not work for
Yeah. Yeah. You're also pushing people and your kids into a different
me.
direction. You want anyone you care about to feel safe enough to come and be able to talk to you about their feelings, their
Hmm.
mistakes, all of those things. So, it's I felt like the doctor could have done a better job at
I could too.
redirecting Nell in that moment. Like that would have been a really good opportunity to like remove everybody from the space and just let it be her and that firstborn. But I also understand they were on television and things are limited. I personally have stated I don't believe in therapy on television. I don't feel like it can work. It sends a false narrative that things can get fixed just in one session, and it's never that way.
No, and it's not. And I feel like we ain't even at the tip of the iceberg with this. But when the daughter said that when she calls her mom and she feels like her mom doesn't listen, when Dr. Francis says, well, how does that make you feel? She says, "On the inside, I feel like I'm dead," or feels like the conversation is dead. And that struck Nell because she didn't realize that that's how she felt. Because when he said, well, did you hear what she just said? And I don't even think Nell got it, but to see her children all in the line just hurt just off of general conversation, Dr. Francis made her get up and acknowledge all of her kids. And I told you the one I paid the most attention to, I thought was going to be that youngest one because he's going through a lot mentally that he has expressed on the show. But it was that oldest child. Y'all, I was looking at his face and you could tell when she was talking to him that there was so much more he wanted to let out in that moment. But he kept it together as much as he could. And even her words to him, she goes, I know you've been through a lot. And it used to be me and you against the world. And I said, anytime my mama says that, that means that she has rung him through the ringer, like, and has done all kind of shit that is realistically not saying unforgivable, but detrimental to his mental being. And I'm glad that he owns a business. I'm glad that he is taking care of his kids. And he probably is the one that doesn't ask his parents for the money the most out of all the kids. But you could still see the pain in his face. Like I was looking, y'all, he couldn't even, it was hard for him to, like, he was holding back tears. Like it was when the camera got off of him, is when he started to let the tears out. And I was like, see, yeah, he's hurting from something. And that's why I said, I wish this episode would have dived into that because I want to know what it is. I want to know what it is that realistically he's holding on to that he has not forgiven her for. And so she goes down to the line, and when she was holding that youngest kid, because she knows he's having the most of the mental improper abilities, Then the rest of them, she hugged him. And you could tell this did hurt her enough because she probably feels like she doesn't do this where there's a soft side to her. But that's what I'm saying, parents. You have to understand your kids are only doing the best they can. You were once in their shoes. How did you do it at their age? You have to kind of look at it from that point of view. Don't look at it as because you've made it through life that you have all the answers or that you know it all. Because we all are going to live different lives, regardless if you were once 21, 22, 23, and was making it or not making it. We all live it differently, and we all are going to have our seasons. And I would rather parents say that versus trying to give the answer. Tell them they're going to have their seasons. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. As we say on Friday, but you live to fight another day. You have to install that in kids' mind because if you don't install that in their minds, they're going to think the world is always against them. And that's not always true. Sometimes the universe hears your pains and hears your sorrows and hears your worries and turns it around in your favor. But only when you know to call it what it is. I recently learned that lesson last week. And I've been going through a lot, y'all. I really have. So I want Black parents to stop being so hard on these kids and let them know just intellectually. And that's when you have to teach your kids to be intellectuals too, because this world is intellectual. So there's no way they're going to get past this world if they can't really process that. Mrs. Best, anything you want to add before we move on to the last scene? Do we lose Mrs. Best? She probably ran away from her computer. No worries, y'all. We'll go ahead and get into the last scene here of this.
I'm sorry, it was StreamYard. I'm here.
Oh, okay. I was like, okay, so don't step away.
Unmuted
Go ahead.
and kept immediately muting me. I am so sorry. And then my computer was tripping, so I did not catch the end of what you said. Apologies.
No, we're gonna move on to the next thing. But did you hear anything of what I said? Or
Some of it, it's StreamYard. I'm so sorry.
no, you're okay. You're okay. We'll move on to the next scene. Well, don't worry about it. But the next scene that we're gonna move on to, we have Trisha and Marquez meeting up, and oof, y'all, I don't know what's going on here. I really don't know. But he comes up to the little gazebo that they're at. He sits down and they greet each other. She's still this reserved primp lady, and I'm just like, that disposition and that posture annoys me because I know it's a defense mechanism. I totally got that. But at the same time, it's just something about her, y'all. I cannot put my finger on it. I thought I had it figured out, but then something else just came across my mind. Like, you know, something about it. I'm gonna figure it out though. But they begin, talking in the arguments of what happened in their marriage and everything. And she told him, "Look, I lost my mother, I lost my father. I was in the hospital with my sister when she refused a heart transplant, and you were nowhere to be found. And I needed you the most."
Oh,
When she said that, I was like, I can't even argue that. There is nothing worse than being with someone and you begin to lose people and they're not even there to console you. Even if he didn't know what he was doing, a simple, hey, I'm here for you, a hug, condolences, getting her flowers, just the simple things. You don't have simple concept of consoling someone when they're down. So what happens if she ain't never caught a cold and you've been there to support her? She ain't never kick her leg on the bed frame and hurt her stubbed her toe or something, and you ain't never said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me help you." Like it's the same concept. It's the same concept. It's just the pain is now inward because nothing happened to her physically. The pain is now inward. So consolement is exactly the same thing as if they were to hurt themselves physically. But we don't have any compassion. We don't have anything. He didn't even say, "I'm sorry that I was not there." And when he didn't even apologize about that, it just really struck a nerve with me, y'all, because I felt like at the very moment when she's calling you to task as her husband, the least you could have said was, "I'm sorry I wasn't there, and I should have been." Because regardless of the issues that you and I have, I should have been there. And whatever you needed, I should have asked versus just completely disconnecting because I couldn't relate. That's what he should have said. And that's what I need. A lot of times, black men don't have the words, and black men don't have the ability because we're taught by design and by nature to never have empathy, to never be sympathetic
Listen,
for a
I'm
person.
sorry. Yes, that's true, but I'm not gonna get an all black man for this one. Listen, I'll tell you this: a street nigga, a straight hood nigga, with the you know what's doing stuff he shouldn't be doing, got ops wiping noses, sliding, whatever the hell you want to call it. Even they will say to you, because I done dated them, I married one. Even they will say to you when they don't have words, look, man, I love you. I'm sorry. I'll be here. They'll say something, even if it's very little, they'll say something. And if they say nothing, they'll show up. This is the most ignorant of niggas. Okay. They will show up. Listen, I'm trying to tell you, I married one of them. He has evolved, but it took work. But I'm just saying that most ignorant of ignorant that you could think of, and even the most well versed, they would either show up if they have nothing to say or be consistently checking on you. Little things. Like this man did none of that. He entirely went MIA, ran amok somewhere in Atlanta. He was running around the South doing God knows what with God knows who, while his wife was literally grieving multiple people at the same time. He didn't even think about his kids to say, well, maybe at this time she is not the best person to be caring for them, because will shut you down. He didn't think of any of that. Nothing. Didn't send a Venmo, a PayPal, a Chime payment, a Zelle payment. This man just dipped, poof, vanished. And like James said, didn't even think to say as the first words out, I am so sorry. Instead, tried to make it about himself, attempted to gaslight her and manipulate the situation. He is trash. The most ignorant of niggas, even some of them that's locked up, will do more. My friend who's locked up right now, matter of fact, true story, is checking on me through the GTL Getting Out app because I had someone very close to me pass away and he's locked up. This guy sucks. And
I
that's
can't
just
I can't dispute that, y'all. What my best friend just said, I can't dispute that because she's right.
he
But
sucks.
at the same time, I do know people like him though that
It's
we have been
unfortunate.
around. It
They
is
exist
unfortunate. They do exist. And a lot
and
of the
they
times it's
suck.
their upbringing. Their upbringing, especially when you think of Alabama and hell, even the person who gave him the most logical common sense, Marceau. Marceau didn't have the best compassion and empathy when Melody was going through her situation with Martell. Yeah, she said, free Martell. And I know men from Alabama. They're not taught to have compassion for women, even when they go through the most detrimental of things. They're not. It's
That's the
unfortunate.
truth. That's the
It is
truth.
it is unfortunate, and I think that the time where and this is what once again, this is all by design. It really is. It's by design. It's designed to always keep women at a disadvantage. And luckily, Trish is somebody. That's why I said there's more to her than we think. Trish is someone who was able to bounce back and bounce into something better because by design, she's not going to let that keep her down. She still has to go up, as she said in this conversation. I still had to get up and go to work, even with all this on my mind. Didn't know which way I was going, but I still had to make it work. And where were you?
And he abandoned her financially too because she said, I had to get up and go to work. I
Right.
wanted to turn my TV off. Even the cat was looking at the TV like, what the hell? It
It was
didn't make
like,
sense.
it didn't make sense. And y'all, and I have been there. I have been there. Like when my dad died, I still had to go up to go to work because my job was tripping. My job was like, "Oh, can you still come in? Like, are you okay to still work?" Not they did say I'm sorry and they offered their condolences, but it was, "Are you okay to work?" was the next thing that came out their mouths. So these jobs don't care. And when you got bills to pay, yeah, you got to put your shit aside. Like, but it does catch up with you if you don't deal with it properly. And that's what happened to me. So I can see where she is coming from. After losing a parent, I can definitely see where Trisha is in life because that is like one of the hardest things. But she lost both her parents in a matter of 6 months, was in the hospital dealing with her sister who unfortunately did pass as well. So she lost three important people. And you worried about some man that probably wouldn't have been in the picture in the first place had you just did what you were supposed to do. And that's what we're trying to get out in so many words is that he probably would not have been in the picture if you would have did what you were supposed to do. And something tells me that this has been happening the entire marriage where you emotionally disengage
Mhm.
because she's having a moment and you don't know what to do. So your operative language is to run, which is
He's
what you
done this
did.
before,
Oh
and
yes, I'm
we
sure.
we hinted at that in previous recaps, which I encourage everyone to watch on his channel. We have hinted at that in the past when the sister visited because the sister did not know that this Ken thing was serious. It sounded like the sister is used to Trisha and Marquez, whatever the hell his name is. It sounds like the sister's used to them breaking up or him disappearing, whatever the hell they have going on. She's used to them separating and doing what they want and then somehow finding their way back to each other, which does sound like something now that we see them together, that couples that have been together for literally basically their whole adult life, that is actually very, very common. At one point, me and my husband did that. Like literally, it was a couple years after we got married. He would get on my nerves for like something small. You didn't take out the trash, the house stink. I swear to God, I'd leave him. I go to my
She would,
nana's house
y'all.
like
And
I'm
she would
done.
call me, be like, James, believe it. I'm like, girl, if you don't cut that shit out, go back.
He's
Because what she would
like,
tell, because when she would tell me what it was, I was like, girl, come on now.
I'm a Gemini through and through. But we were
Yeah.
young, like we've been together since
Hmm.
16, 17. So you will go through that phase because you're not just dating when you with someone for that long at that
Yes.
young of an age. You are growing up together. The stuff that you're figuring out that we all figure out as adults individually and all those things. When you stuck with somebody for that damn long, you figure it out with them and you don't know how to impact the relationship. I do think
Yes.
Trisha's done though. I do think she's done,
I think the grass is greener on the other side. I do. I feel
definitely.
like, Ken, as we know, Ken brought the car to Sun Drives, which what the hell? Why is Kim buying the Sun car server? Are you? We know that he is showing up to the daughter's PTA meetings and stuff. We know that he is very involved to these kids' lives. So his
Which
problem
I
is
respect. That's how a stepdad should be.
absolutely. And it was funny because when the scene goes, well, Marcel was like, well, what kind of parent do you want him to be? He goes, non-existent. He goes, okay, well, let me give you an example. If your daughter come home crying because she had a bad day, what do you want him to do? And that man said, tell him to call your father. I said, oh, get him off my screen. Get him off my screen at this point.
He's using the kids, in my opinion, as a way to get back to Trisha. And I don't think this is the first time that he's done that. I'd also like to say, just from a professional perspective, it's very unlikely that this little girl suddenly went to the extreme of, I don't love you anymore. You don't care about me just because he disappeared this one time. Kids are not as dense as everybody likes to make them out to be. Kids are very, very intelligent. They're very intelligent. They just express themselves in different ways as they develop. So it's likely that this little girl has experienced this constantly, which the sister basically told us, and Trisha alluded that he was not the most reliable or consistent husband. Kids see that and pick up on that. And him leaving this final time and then getting to experience the dad that they probably wish they had with Ken, it's probably not only confusing, but eye opening to the kids. And that's probably where her anger is coming from. So this man is just full of it. And she got to be careful divorcing him. She got to be
She do.
real careful.
Yeah, baby. You got to be real careful because hell, you might. But sometimes it may be worth paying them. Who knows? But speaking of that, they did come to the end of this conversation and said, well, I guess there's nothing more but just to file the paperwork. And he said, it's going to be about $400. You going to give me half? And when I looked at that food,
Broke.
I said, no, you did not come on national. You almost as bad as that man on Love and Hip Hop. I think it was like season 2. He was fine as a motherfucker, though. He on All the Queens Men now. When he ripped that money out of Erica's hand for that gas money when we ran out of gas at the railroad tracks. That shit lives rent free in my head.
I'm
He got it
sorry.
together now. I'm proud of him. He got it to. Then I tell you, that man got it all the way together now. But I would never. But that's what that reminded me of.
I'm
That
so
popped in my head when the first thing that man said, you gonna pay half. She goes, sure. And then their confession said, Ken gonna pay that. And I
mm.
said,
That concerned me.
that did
Listen,
too.
baby, if you love him. But are you just with him because you don't want to have to be stressed as the only income?
And that's the other trauma. And that's the other trauma bond. I think that that's what it is.
Yeah.
I think that because she can rely on him financially, she's also on board with this being in a relationship. Y'all have to understand Trish mindset. I'm really looking at her. I'm really dissecting her. Ken is the complete opposite of her husband. And
Yep.
this is out of trauma bond. The scary
Mhm.
thing about trauma bond is that we think it's love and it's not. And
Mhm.
we have to be very, very careful when we involve people like that. And when we do certain things and move this kind of way based on the emotional state of where we are. We should be whole, complete, and off of the clutter when we meet people and fall in love. Not have complete baggage, you know, gunshots and bullet wounds and everything when we come to people. Because that's not for them to heal. That's all I'm saying. So that was the episode, y'all. It was this episode got on my nerves. I was like, I don't want to this, but want to review this, but it was nice not having Destiny, not having Martell, not having the already absent Maurice and Kimmy, because they got on my nerves last episode. Stormy and Courtney. It was nice not to have them in this episode. It was very nice having the main cast on the show. Very nice. Mrs. Best, is there anything you want to add to this before we end and go to our next show?
No, I enjoyed my time. That's all.
Yes. So we hope that everyone else enjoyed the recap. We hope that you guys had a good time. Shout out to the replay gang. I appreciate your guys' comments. They're always uplifting. I'm glad you guys, especially the ones who have came and said they learned something from us. We definitely appreciate it. We are always happy to talk about certain topics, talk about certain things, especially if that's what you're currently going through. But overall, we're here for y'all and we're doing this because this is what we do on the phone with each other all the time. So now we're just bringing y'all into our conversations that we already have with each other. So we hope you guys enjoyed this. We're going to do Family Empire Houston next. So make sure you guys click on that live. It should be in your description, or not description, but in your notifications of me and Mrs. Best. So we'll see you guys on the next recap. Bye.